Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Today is October 23rd, and every week I do this call, as many of you know, at 7 o'clock. And sorry for the Eastern time. I'm Eastern time. Sorry for the delay from last week. We had a pretty good recording, and I just haven't been able to upload it because of the formatting. So I'll figure that out. And then this evening's call, I'm going to record this and publish it as soon as it's available. But like I said, I think there was a formatting change, so I have to figure that out. I'll figure that out. We'll get there. Hey there, Ray.
Hey,
So,
John.
so it'll be like a two-part call today. I wanted to cover something like I did, like you guys saw me on Rogue today with VJ. I want to do something like that. So the first part, I want to talk about uh, an IRS levy. It's very basic. Unfortunately, I think probably either you've experienced this or you know someone who may have. The reason why I like talking about this is because I just think that people are being exploited all the way around, and I think they have their focus the wrong way when it comes to these matters. And so that's the first part. And the second part I want to talk about is unsecured debt collections. So before I begin, please check out aceofcoins.club. This has all the video content. I try to take the good content and more detail. And sometimes I have problem solving procedures and documents and things of this nature. I put this in the video content so that you can subscribe, learn how to do things, and see examples of my work, and just have it available to yourselves. Of course, like I said, this call I'm recording it, so this is one of the more content. Now, what I like to do is when I record something like this, I will likely it'll be like an overview in the members area, okay, and from there might be three, four, five, or seven other videos that give you more detail on that particular subject. So this is a very popular one, unfortunately. So we'll cover that tonight. Now, if you want to talk to me, it's aceofcoins.com. If you go to aceofcoins.com, you can book a time with me. And you'll see there's the consulting program that I have, and it's just some basic information. So just a real quick update on the AI device. I still think we're looking at it's going to be maybe in a couple of weeks. We should do some test trials and then give it a run. See how it comes up with some of these ideas. Yeah, it'd be exciting. All right, so let me get started with that. So the first part of it is going to be on IRS levies. Now, this is where the Internal Revenue Service uh, does a levy. Now, I know there's notices of lien and there's other things like that. I'm not so much talking about that because I want to get you focused on the thing that really gives you a leg up or is the most impact in your life, which is you keep your cash. And if you're focused on something else, like your credit, you're just going to miss the boat on what's really going to be meaningful to you because your credit, you can't really do much with your credit in the beginning stages of a collection because it has to settle out. You have to get past it. That's like an 18-month period. So, anyways, with that, uh, let me just give you a little history, a quick history. The IRS over the years had been, let's say, since the 80s, had become much more abusive than I believe it had in previous years or decades, and to a point where uh, the problems it created for people, and I'm not saying whether or not the people actually owed money and the IRS took their money and whether that was right or wrong. I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying is that the behavior and the policies or abusive policies of IRS agents, many cases resulted in uh, suicides, destroying families, or the total destruction of a business that could have been used to support a family or even pay more taxes, right? If the IRS didn't destroy it. And so we get into the mid 90s when I was just learning this stuff, and what we find is that the Congress had to start investigating what was going on with these agents. And so once the Congress got kind of a layout of the problems people had been involved with regarding the IRS, among which included families losing the breadwinner of the household because of, suicide, I hate to say. Um, and the family filing wrongful death cases against the United States. I mean, it creates a huge liability, right? Yeah, a wrongful death. Can you imagine? So, I mean, you would think that if you kill yourself, that it's not anyone's fault but your own. But there is a legal claim that could be made by the family because of the circumstances, right, under which that happened. So, what happened was the Congress asked all these people that wanted to, that were filing complaints, whose names appeared, and people were sending, writing letters to your congressman, right? There was this growing list of people, and so the Congress brought all these people in, hundreds of people that were testifying as to what happened with the IRS, and I think even the congressmen, and they were so shocked, and to a point where they're even disgusted. I mean, I watched some of these hearings in 1995 and 96 and leading into 97, and to the Congress's credit, it did not allow the IRS to defend itself. It took no testimony in defense of all these claims. It just took in all this information about the abuses, and it wrote a law. Now, here's the interesting thing about government. As you know, government creates problems, and then many times it solves the problem by creating more government. So they doubled down on this one. This was interesting. So what the United States did was the Congress wrote a law called the IRS Restructure and Reform Act of 1998, and it created a supervisory or an oversight board. Let's call it the oversight board of the IRS and what the IRS was doing. So let's just say, for what we're talking about, the collections process, okay, the automated collection process, where this is where the IRS goes out and sends out a levy, right? Levies people's paychecks and bank accounts and puts liens on people's homes. So there's an oversight board, and the Congress wrote the statute giving people immediate access to this oversight board. And I'm going to show you how this works. And I'm going to show you how in this immediate oversight board, Congress and the actual agency itself, okay, the IRS actually had to implement regulations to enact a lot of these statutes that the Congress came up with. So you have to give the IRS a bit of credit. I know they were kind of forced into it, but I'm going to show you how to do this. And uh, it wasn't good enough, though. The IRS went in, I'm sorry, the Congress created yet a second oversight police function known as the Taxpayer Advocate's Office to police the review board, who is supposed to be the oversight level of IRS operations. So you have two levels of bureaucracy. And so what I want to show you is how, in a situation where the IRS does a levy or a notice of levy and takes your bank account money, I want to show you within a period of 30 days, there's a way that you can have the funds released, and you can take them away and prevent the IRS from taking that money if you're able to do it quickly enough. You got 30 days to do it. So let me just do a screen share here, because maybe I am recording this, and I mean, I can certainly show you. You just need a little phrase. So here's what I do when I'm talking to somebody, a prospective client, and the first thing I want to do is shut down the levy. I don't even care if he hires me. I'm going to shut down the levy while we're talking. And I give him the forms and documents. If he never hires me after that, he's already shut down the levy. Once I shut down the levy, usually the client wants to hire me, right? So I go into that whole process, and then I take him to the end. Now I'm going to share with you, like I did with VJ today. I'm going to share with you the details of this till we get up to the point of part two, let's call it, where I actually wind it up, because that process is more complex and it takes a few months to finish. But the first part is immediate. It can be done within, well, within a day. I can do it within 1 hour. Okay. So let me see if I can do a screen share here. And I'll just show you. Here we go. All right. So I got a browser window, and I'm just going to pick this Brave search window. Okay. You guys can see this, right? Right? You guys can see that, right? Okay. So I'm going to look for IRS form. So this is the form that gives you access to immediately shutting down a levy and releasing your funds. It's form 12153. All right. Now, what I like to do is, give it a little more detail so I can get the form. And you're going to find there's some paid services here that will want to sell you the form or completing the form. You don't need that. You can do it yourself in 5 minutes. Okay. Many times I just do this for clients over the phone while I'm talking to them, as you can see here. So we find here, I like to go to the IRS's website, because this form actually is published on the IRS's website, and right here, the taxpayeradvocate.irs.gov. Now, this form is still part of the advocate's office. The next one I'm going to show you is also, I'm going to show you two forms here. So this one is what you're doing is you're requesting where it says you're asking for a collection due process hearing. Okay, that's what this is called. Let me see if I can expand this and make it. It's not really showing me the form. Okay. Anyways, you guys can do this yourselves and you can look. I'm just going to show you now. I don't know, they make it more difficult these days. Okay, I'll just describe this form. So on this form, all you're doing is you're giving your name and your address and the taxpayer information and enough information so that the IRS oversight can actually intervene. Okay, and so what they'll do is they'll intervene with the actual collection, the collection process. All right, kind of lost my way here. Let's see, collection. Let's see if I can get you a form view here. Maybe one of y'all can find this. Let's see. All right. Anyways, maybe it's not. Okay, so the reason why there is a collection due process hearing form. Okay, so what you have here is you have two different situations. One is you can ask for a collection due process hearing. If you do that if you file this form according to the form's instructions, you fax it and mail it to the IRS. Faxing, of course, is necessary to get a quick result. And the IRS does not have discretion if you do this within 30 days of getting the notice of levy or the date on the notice of levy. Now, unfortunately, notices are not served properly. So this kind of like, Wild West, we still have to kind of deal with that. So you want to act as quickly as possible. And then you see here is this mention of the equivalent hearing. The equivalent hearing is where the IRS does have discretion to not stop the levy. So it depends on really what agent is going to be involved with it. So if we can get this sent to the IRS completed, we're gonna be in a situation where if we do it within 30 days, you're gonna free up your money and you can just yank it out of the bank, right? So what I do at that point, once we're able to have the funds unfrozen, I have the client move the money. Now, sometimes I have to act very quickly because if they have a lot of money, I've got to I can't just like take out a suitcase of cash, right? So, but what I end up doing is I set up another banking alternative for the client, and much like you've heard me describe in many videos, where I'm using a limited liability company, and then I'm able to move the money over there, and the client can then resume his use of that money outside of his name. And if the IRS wants, the IRS can see what I've done. And in all my years of doing this work, since the early 90s, the IRS, I can tell you, doesn't care. Okay. It only cares about the individual person who's named on the notice of levy and what property or property rights he has. The IRS doesn't care if he's given away the property rights. As long as they're not within his ability to spend the money according to the IRS, the way it's looking, they're going to leave it alone. If you're wondering about that question. So that is just one part of this. Now, the next part is you can see here, it's another form. And ironically, it's called Form 911. Emergency, So, and here's PDF filler. We don't need this, okay? This is like a paid service. There's some videos on showing you how to do it. That's kind of nice. I didn't do them. I don't do them because, in my opinion, this is such a simple form. There's no need to do the video. So, but I'm sure there's plenty of good people out there that have done that. So let me just see here if I can get an example of what that form looks like.
It's in the chat if you want it.
Oh, okay. Thanks so much. You found like a URL with a PDF file.
I found the other form, but there's someone who's faster than me.
Okay. You guys are sharp. Okay.
Lady M, I
You
think is
gotta, thank you guys. You gotta teach me how to do this stuff. You guys are fast. So anyways, you get the idea, right? So you can search on your own browser for those phrases. I like to put PDF in there because you want the PDF. A lot of times if you save the PDF on your computer, you can edit that. It's much neater and print it out. Although many times I've had people print them out and handwrite it and mail it in or fax it in or whatever. And so here's what happens. The bank releases the funds. So I'm focused on wage levies, and bank accounts. So wage levies, if you're filing returns, wage levies are going to be limited to about 10% of your pay. Now that's aside from anything else that's going on. So it's 10% of your take-home pay in addition to, right? I don't know that well, you can get that reduced by negotiating, but that's too early. Okay, once you stop the levy, you're too early to try to work out a deal yet. You're just staging it. So my purpose never changes. It's to get the IRS to not be able to. So I try to take the IRS's ability away legally. Can't lie to them. I do have to disclose many things which I don't like disclosing. However, when I disclose things to the IRS, it's for a purpose to do what the client needs. But at the same time, I'm divesting the client of his exclusive rights over the property. When I'm talking about is cash, okay? In a way that it's not fraudulent, and the IRS will not do anything with it. They're not going to look at that as his money, okay? And hopefully, the best result is to get the IRS to agree that the client is uncollectible, or that trying to take anything from the client would create a hardship. And then the next best thing is the IRS could agree that it's not a hardship up to, let's say, $100 a month if you're going to pay. And so there's a reason to get into a payment plan with the IRS, and that is to prevent the IRS from just wiping you out every which way without any, just random, just you can't even sleep at night. You're just wondering what's going to happen next. So there's some caveats there, but here's what happens. When I file this with the IRS, according to the instructions on these forms, I get the taxpayer advocates. It's a separate office from the oversight board. Someone from the oversight board or from the 911, the advocate's office, somebody's going to call, and it's going to call you want this IRS agent to call you. And so when I tell my clients this, I know they're a little afraid. John, do I have to talk? Do I have to talk to them? What do I have to say? And I tell them, okay, this is how it works. That you want the IRS agent to call. You're going to get a call quickly within a week. They're pretty good at this. And the whole purpose of the call is to schedule another call in which I can represent you, or your cousin Bob can represent you if you know what you're doing. Okay. Or if you watch enough of my videos, maybe your cousin Bob would like to do it, because I show you how to do this stuff. So that's the deal. Now, the rest of it, that's part two. I'm not trying to create a cliffhanger here, but it's beyond this call. Does anybody have any questions? I know I talk fast. What if, what if, what if? No, yes, what?
Sorry. Yes. People are wondering, okay,
Okay,
so you move the cash. Wouldn't they go
right.
after your property next? And what if that hasn't been moved into an
Yeah.
LLC
Okay, so
also?
my goal is your ability to spend cash. So if there's a notice of lien, I kind of don't care. It, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to stop it. And I can tell you right now, there's no legal basis to stop it. It's up to the IRS in that situation. Now, there are times when you can get the IRS to release a notice of lien. For example, I hate to say this, but ironically, it's when you can pay the IRS if the lien were released. So I don't like to, for many situations, we just leave the lien there on the real estate. Okay. It's the levy that I care about. I care about the cash flow. I care about your ability to spend money, and we want your cash flow freed up. Okay. So it makes it a much easier battle if I'm just focused on that tool, on that aspect of it. Okay. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah, I don't care about the shutdown of the funding and all this stuff. I'm sure that, they're all this going on. I wonder if there's a provision though, because you can't be prejudiced in your access to the law. If there's the government shutdown, I would think the IRS has to stop taking your property
Hmm.
if it's called for. So that's my guess. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation before. So you get to that point, there's the phone call, there's the scheduling, and then what's going to happen is the IRS is going to ask for a financial disclosure. So let me just give you an overview of that second part. So the overview is you get the financial disclosure. I mean, it's like an audit. It's actually kind of worse than an audit because the IRS wants to make sure that if it's going to make a deal with you, it's because it's necessary. And this is why I say, because of the abuse over the years, the IRS is the friendliest creditor in the United States. I mean, unless it's your grandma, okay? The IRS is the friendliest creditor because of all the protections in place if you'll just avail yourself of these protections. And so one of the governing factors is whether or not the collection would create an undue hardship. Okay. And there's criteria for that. They actually have in the Internal Revenue Manual, and you guys can do this. This is so much more efficient now. If you just search on the internet, I'm not going to do this tonight, but if you search on the internet for the Internal Revenue Manual and then you get the website, you guys run it through the AI, you ask it for the criteria of what constitutes an undue hardship when you're asking for a payment plan. It'll just give you everything. Okay, so you'll get to see what the employees are looking at, right? So when you're being asked for financial information, you want to keep that in mind, what's going on. Now that's my trade, that's my expertise. And it's kind of an art. Okay. And sometimes like I'll get lucky and sometimes the agent will actually do something that's kind of kind. If I'm polite and courteous and this sort of thing. So anyways, that is how I work with the IRS. And again, my focus is on getting your cash and giving you the use of the cash. I could care less about your credit. I don't care about your real estate. And we don't really care yet about your crypto holdings. I know someone's going to be asking me, what about my Bitcoin? That's coming later. But right now, it's your bank account, it's your wages. That's typically the biggest deal. And stock and all these other things. Yeah.
Hey, John, there's a question. Can this work with income tax due on an IRA distribution?
Yes, of course. It's the same thing. It doesn't matter why the IRS wants to collect. So I could tell you, I mean, I've got some clients that have the stomach for this where they're going to take the money out of their IRA and deliberately not pay the IRS and allow the IRS to go through the collection process and deal with the collection notices and all these things and still try to manage the use of that money and not suffer the effects of the collections process. This I don't recommend, but yeah, it doesn't matter where the debt obligation arises. It doesn't matter where it comes from. So I don't even ask the client in many cases, unless I get down to where I have to negotiate something. So,
Mhm.
but anyways, that's how that works. And so it is slightly different than what I'm going to show you next. Now, let me just if there are no more questions on this particular subject.
Well, one thing I can add
Yeah,
one thing, John.
yeah,
Remember,
please, yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm doing it a little different, but neither the lien 6321 nor the levy 6331 have the force of law. They're not
Hmm.
self-executing, and the enacting regulations
Hmm.
are interpretive.
Yeah,
And that's
that's good to
part of the
know.
exhibits I sent into the case that locked it down.
It's good to know. Yeah, it's good to know this now. This is a situation where, and I'm dealing with a situation where they're just taking the property and they're not going to court. Ray's talking about a case where it's in court and you then get to challenge these legal aspects of the collection process and whether or not it's correct, right? So you don't get that chance when they don't go to court. That's why, if you have to suffer an IRS collection, I love to see it in court because now there's a different set of rules. That's why I'm sharing with you this set of here. I'm not trying to even, I know there's so many things you could do. I mean, gosh, an IRS levy is based on nothing. There's been no assessment. But how do you challenge it? It's difficult to challenge it because here's how the law works. If you want to challenge an IRS levy, okay, where the IRS is not suing you in court, just sending a levy, taking your money. And let's say we want to challenge on the lack of assessment, which you can do. The only way to do it is to sue in federal court
Mhm.
after you pay.
Yeah.
So, you
So
know,
no,
what,
thank you.
what I'm showing you is forget all that stuff unless they sue you. If they sue you, okay, great, great. Now we got a nice set of rules.
Mhm.
Ray's right. I mean, and by the way, if you guys have that situation, Ray's your expert, right, Ray? You
I
guys-
And
have
and
about
Ray
burnt my eyeballs out on it, but I don't know if I'm an
Right.
expert, but I'm doing my best.
Uh-huh.
and he could still make use of your tools, right?
Right. I mean, it's good to know the procedure because it's a due process issue. What I'm describing for you is administrative law that relates to due process, your right to be heard before the taking of property. That's what we're talking about. And so all Congress did was exacerbate or make it more involved, uh, giving you more procedural protections because of the abuse. And so again, it's all administrative law and your due process rights, right to be
Hmm.
heard.
So,
Yeah.
so when you say federal, you mean not tax court, but actual federal court?
Yeah, U.S. District Court is a
Hmm.
place where the Department of Justice would represent the United States in a suit regarding the collection of income taxes, federal income taxes. Yeah.
Okay, so the tax, because remember you had told me, and I remember all these forms, but that the tax court was not a real court. It was an administrative.
Yeah, it's an administrative court, and sometimes it's useful, but just keep in mind its jurisdiction is limited to determining how much you owe, not whether or
Yeah.
not, because in order to go into tax court, you have to argue that the court has jurisdiction, and so the IRS
Mhm.
has jurisdiction, so that now you're just there to talk about how much you owe.
Okay.
You can't go into tax court and argue jurisdiction as to, the IRS is not allowed to collect from me. No, the pleading requires you to allege that the court has jurisdiction.
Mhm.
So there's a big difference there. Yeah, it's an administrative court. Now it is useful in some cases, but you got to know what the rules are. So in the U.S. District Court, and it's not really recommended, okay, to sue the United States. You just got to get out of the way, and this is what I do. I like to
Mhm.
show people I just get out of the way, which
Mhm.
leads me into part 2. So let me pause this for editing purposes. It'll make it easier. All right.